Deborah DeBoer, Director of Professional Development here at the North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors. Today, it's my pleasure to have a discussion with several members of our Diversity and Inclusion Committee. That committee's mission is to promote and support a diverse and welcoming community with housing choices and opportunities free from housing discrimination. The committee aims to assure that policies and practices relating to fair housing and inclusiveness are interwoven into all association activity. First, let me introduce Azam Roohani. Azam works for Coldwell Banker, and she replaces Mary as the 2021-22 chairman of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee at NSBAR. She also serves as the chairperson of the North Shore Women's Council, and she speaks several languages and is firmly committed to her clients and to her community and works diligently to include all in the real estate process. Gina Tarpey, a lifelong Chicagoan, works at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Chicago, in Lake Forest. Spending over a decade in real estate, she has worked in various aspects of the real estate industry, starting in leasing and property management, working for commercial developers and residential sales. She received her At Home with Diversity certification through NAR and currently serves on two committees, the Government and Political Issues Committee and Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Gina serves her client and the community with both passion and expertise, and she is very involved in both of those committees. Sheila Patel with BGR Commercial Realty is a seasoned real estate professional. Prior to becoming a realtor, Gina was a practicing attorney. That gives her an in-depth understanding of the needs of her clients and the community where she practices. She too serves on our Diversity and Inclusion Committee at NSBAR. I love this part. One of her proudest accomplishments is founding a startup that provides backpacks to impoverished children in the very village where she would have been living had her parents not emigrated to Chicago. Welcome. It's my pleasure to speak with such an accomplished group of professionals. Let me begin by asking, will one of you describe who the members of your committee are and the goals that they work toward?
I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. First of all, Deborah, thank you so much for moderating this for us. It's great that we're able to get together and really promote and discuss the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which we are all very passionate about. And also thanks to NSBAR for Bradley and Jen for really helping to facilitate this and really get it on the books so that we can introduce ourselves and get this going for this year. We really appreciate that. Our committee is made up of about 16 members thus far, who are really all passionate about diversity and inclusion, come from different backgrounds and identify in different ways. And we're really working to, this past year, really working to increase NSBAR's awareness of NSBAR's commitment to the diversity space for its members. We really want to create this space so that people feel they can come to us in an authentic way, feel valued and supported, and also be able to go out and serve in those communities that they live and work. That's ultimately our goal. We're really hoping to attract and engage with a more diverse and inclusive association moving forward, where all voices are represented, recognized, and valued. And really empower our members to fully participate, not only if they want in our committee, within the association, and of course, going out into their communities and really serving to the best that they can.
Okay, thank you, Gina. Azam, you also wanted to add, I think?
In my behalf, and of course, I want to thank you all for allowing us to have this panel and being our moderator and support. Yes, I think we have a good group of diverse group here. We have Sheila Patel, which is Indian American background, and Gina herself is Italian American, and myself Persian American. So I think we create a very good diverse group of people who can deliver this message abroad. And we're hoping that to get more members and more people involved in this committee.
Sheila?
I'm the newest member, which was really thoughtful of you to allow me to join. And I think the perspective that I'm coming from is a little bit different since I do commercial real estate. And so I hope to bring that as part of a more diverse committee and have somebody else that's doing something a little bit different, not necessarily the housing portion of it. So yeah, and I'm really excited to be here and be a part of a committee that's looking forward and trying to have a really substantive impact in diversity and inclusion.
NSBAR has a really strong 3-year strategic plan. Certainly inclusivity and diversity goals have been incorporated in there. Can you talk about some of the practical things that you have accomplished this last year? We're going to look a little bit forward in a little bit, but you've done a lot of things in this last year. Can you talk a little bit about some of those?
I can start with that. We're trying to really create a very safe environment for bringing the inclusivity and diversity to our group. And Gina and Sheila and I, we thought we'd bring a podcast to the table so we can have at least 9 episodes of different version of inclusivity and diversity to the panel. And that would be like 3 episodes each. And we were hoping that we could, sooner start this panel, but unfortunately didn't happen. But we're trying our best to launch it probably in October. And our goal is for the next year is more diverse group and engage in our community, including younger realtors, minorities, and people with different cultures, and get more different views of involvement and different cultures.
One of the things I noticed when I came to NSBAR, quite honestly, that for some reason surprised me coming from the south side of Chicago, was the diversity in the people's voices, was the different accents, which indicated that they were from so many different places. I mean, they'd walk into my office and I'd be surprised by, but this is someone from many times in places that I couldn't have located on the map, and there they were being in our association. That's been a wonderful part of the diversity that I found of NSBAR. So I think your podcast ideas are a great idea, but I know you did some other interesting things last year. Can you speak to some of those first steps that you were taking? Because this is really a committee that you've sort of had the chance to put your brand on in many ways. Gina, some of those things?
Sure. Well, I think that, as far as NSBAR's strategic goals is definitely to build community through diversity and inclusion. And one way that we're really, just one of the things that we've kind of accomplished as a committee, some of our committee members have been working hard to update our current and new member survey, which really speaks to how are we going to support our diverse community and our diverse association. What do our realtors need? What do our members need to really fully be supported and to feel that they can be authentic in who they are? So I think that this is the first step as far as, sending out this survey and hopefully getting a good response with some demographic data, with some personal data that will really, moving forward, help us to, grow the committee and to really be, an active part of this association that really does support its members.
Okay. I think there are challenges whenever you are beginning new initiatives. As for the upcoming year, what do you suppose will be your biggest challenges? Not that they will really be them. Sometimes the challenges surprise us out of nowhere. But what do you see as some of the biggest challenges you'll face? Sheila?
I think when you work with an organization, especially because I came in this year, and I'm newer, is you have to take the time to get to know everybody else on the committee, where they're coming from, especially when we're talking about a subject like diversity and inclusion, right? It's there's a lot of feelings and emotions involved in it. And so it's, as much as we want to move quickly, because things are happening in real time, changes are occurring in real time, and we have to be able to keep up with that so that we do stay relevant. And I think that's really important. That's why this podcast idea, we came up with it, because it is something that's relevant. It's happening now. A lot of people, when they drive around, they listen to podcasts. It's different than sending out an email or sending out or having face-to-face or even Zoom. And so just with this podcast, I think is a real good example of how, we can make change and we can affect change. Yeah, I think that's.
Okay. Gina, you want to add?
I can add to that.
Thank you, Azam.
Of course. Our challenges would be, not many people, they do understand the inclusivity and inclusion. So we have to deliver that message. People can get more involved, and how we have to be strategically creative to send this message out that, different cultural differences is kind of diversity, that we have to get everyone involved, and it's okay to be a part of it. So we have to deliver this message to majority of realtors, actually, because it's very new. I have a feeling this is a very new topic for the industry, since they think that fair housing is going to go away and is going to be inclusion and diversity, which is not. This is a platform, of the fair housing and fair housing. If I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong. That's why I think, gaining members at this point is a very critical to get more realtors involved.
Okay. I think that's an interesting point that you brought up, Azam, that fair housing, in my mind, there is no conflict between fair housing and diversity and inclusion. They have different names, but essentially it is the hard commitment on all of those committees is to make all property things, all things involved with real estate to available to as many people as possible, as many and diverse groups as possible. So I don't think there's really, the name may be different, but the truth of the matter is the goals, I think, have the same. I think there are challenges in our association because it's new. And I do think that the changing of the name is new. And so I think there will be challenges with that. But I think it's also going to be a very exciting time for all of you. I mean, you kind of get sort of like you have a blank slate, and you get to sort of write on the slate whatever you want, which I think is going to be very cool. You've had some successes at your committee. Can you name some of the successes that you've achieved already with this committee? I see some real ones, but I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
I'm going to answer this first because we got this podcast. And so I say there's a cheer to that. And we were a fast moving train. And so I think because I wasn't on the committee last year, I just wanted to pipe in that I feel like that was our success, right, ladies? And so here we are.
All right. I am delighted to be a part of your success with that. That's a really nice one. I think you did some other kind of cool things too. I think you did some things talking about book clubs and reviewing some of the materials that you were incorporating with that. I think you did some interesting things with who might be chairing committees. And I think our committees and our board look a little different than they did 3 or 5 years ago. Certainly look a little different, which is very cool that what you've done that. This year we've done, I think all of you have done At Home with Diversity, if I'm not mistaken, have been in the class to do with At Home with Diversity, which is a really cool thing to be able to say about our staff. Everyone on our staff has achieved their At Home with Diversity certification. For those who don't know what that is, who are listening to this, At Home with Diversity is a certification that the National Association has had available for years. And I am delighted to tell you that this year, I just got something from the woman who runs that program. She said they've had more people involved and achieve that designation, that certification than ever before by significant numbers. I think that has to do with committees like yours who are saying, this is important. We need to think about this. We need to talk about this. I think that's a really cool thing. I think something some of our members might ask you is, so why are you doing it? What's the big deal? What do we benefit from being diverse? What's the big, let people come who want to come, let people who don't want to come. Why are we working hard to become diverse? Or why should we be working hard to be more diverse?
I want to, Gina, Azam and I met for coffee, and part of my platform that I consult with diversity and inclusion on the side. And what I always like to point out, and people miss this a lot of times, yes, diversity and inclusion is so important for all the things that we've talked about already, but it also, the value add, the biggest one is the bottom line. If you are not diverse, you are not going to, it's going to affect your bottom line, and you're not going to be able to move forward. And Azam and Gina and I were talking about, the example I always use is Victoria's Secret. Victoria's Secret did not move forward, and Rihanna stepped in with a $600 billion idea, which was, also underwear that fits all kind of diverse women. And so I use that as an example when I talk to other young business owners, all across the board, that diversity not only is good for community, it's good for people, it actually is good for yourself, but it's also affects your bottom line. So if you don't think that it does, you just have to start looking around at different companies, at who wants to come in terms of the younger generation, who wants, they actually look at how diverse companies are, and they will take a pay cut in order to work for a company that is more diverse, that supports more sustainable initiatives. So these are things that are affecting your bottom line. So if you want to be part of an organization that is more diverse and more inclusive, it's more likely that that organization is going to be moving forward and also being more profitable.
Okay. Gina, you want to add?
Yes, Deborah, you actually touched on this already, and that is really about, providing fair housing to all. I feel that, in having, real estate is just by its very nature, a business of relationships, of people and connections. And, by investing this time and resources into really, creating this diverse space for people, it really helps us and our members go out into those communities and really, make an actionable difference. We're working with individuals from all different backgrounds, from all different cultures. And if we can help them understand the process, for some people, it's, this is their first home in America, or their first home, and we're helping them build that equity that's going to last from generation to generation. And I think, as realtors, that's our goal. And, diversity is just, it's automatically just woven into our industry, I think.
And if I might,
Please add, Azam.
yes, communication issues. When you have a diverse group, there is communication always between the group can be very, complicated. So that's why we have to understand the differences between the different groups. And when it comes to ethical and cultural differences, we have to be vigilant and sensitive to that. For example, when you are working with a client who's it has a different background and culture and religion, so you have to be very, very cautious and understand where those people are coming from. For example, when you're walking in somebody's house that you're showing, if you take off your shoes, if you don't take off your shoes, it could be offensive to those people.
Mhm.
Because that's how it is with cultural background and with and the lack of communication. If the agent realize that these groups has a certain religion and they don't want people to walk in with their shoes, So it won't be offensive to your clients if you know it prior to showing a home, for example, as a realtor. So it's important to understand those, the cultural differences. And the more I think the more we talk about it and the more we cover this kind of issues, I think we're going to, establish a better relationship and a platform of community and a communication for better stuff.
I think you all have hit on something that's really important, and that I think it's nice that you mentioned shoes, Azam, because I think that's part of the issue here is we have to be a little bit less afraid to walk in someone else's shoes. We have to use our imagination to be able to do that, to walk in other people's shoes. And I was thinking about when you were saying we have to be sensitive to cultural issues. I've been thinking about 20 years, one of the first classes that I taught was up in Highland Park. And I scheduled it for the high holidays in a community that had a huge Jewish population. Because who am I but a Catholic girl from the south side of Chicago? It never even occurred to me to be sensitive to that. I will tell you, since then I have grown hugely in what I try to be sensitive to. But I think it's a process. And I think what you're doing has a lot to do with process. This is not overnight. This is going to take time. But bringing this to the fore of being sensitive to the things that are happening and to being kind about them instead of mean about them and saying you better do this. Instead of having that and saying, no, we want to work together. So the last thing I would ask you is, what are some of the strategies that you're going to use going forward this year? What's on your mind? What are the practical things you're going to be doing this year? Sheila, I'll start with you.
So I think we're doing a diversity symposium. Am I correct about that? I think that's going to happen.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so the name change, as we discussed, I think that also has happened, and which is really important. As we said earlier, diversity and inclusion is the umbrella, which is what I believe in fair housing and all these other things, other statutory laws that come into play. I think the National Realtors Association says there's some things in fair housing that are not included, like gender bias. So I think diversity and inclusion is a big umbrella term that is hopefully a catch-all. And like you said, Deborah, this is a process, and it's a process that's never going to end. There's always going to be change. There's always going to be new things that come, like LGBTQ. I think there's more letters added to that, right? So it's constantly growing. It's a constant learning process. I have nieces that are, Indian, Irish, and like 5 different things. And they're like, I don't think anyone else on the planet is that. And so we're evolving, and this is diversity and inclusion is going to be diversity and inclusion and maybe potentially something else in a few years from now. So I think what we're doing right now, having symposiums, having these podcasts, having these conversations just between Gina and Azam and I having coffee, I walked away from just that conversation feeling like, wow, I learned so much about these 2 dynamic women, and I hope to learn more. And like you said, Deborah, just be more open, be more kind, be more understanding, and hopefully we can implement those things by making it habitual and talking about it and then showing up that way.
Okay. Gina, do you want to add something?
Sure. I know we kind of just discussed this kind of preliminary plans, but moving forward, I'm hoping this year we're going to be able to have an event or 2 where we're actually in person, because we didn't get to do that at all.
Oh, that would be so wonderful.
So yeah, I mean, Sheila and Azam and I met for the first time in person just last week, which is crazy, that we've been working together this whole past year via Zoom or phone calls. So I'm really looking forward to that, planning some networking events and really getting people involved in that and saying, hey, invite, who do you think would like to get involved with this? Whose voice would like to be heard? Who, invite 10 people to come and, join us at this event. We really, want to promote it and just have people want to get involved.
Thank you. Azam?
Yes, I also want to add, since we are the pioneer of this podcast and we want to launch this message, and we have to be very authentic on this, message to send abroad. We have to be more trusted people. We have to create that authenticity and create become an ally that it's okay if you have an accent. For example, myself, as a realtor, I've been in this country for 35 years and I still have an accent. It's okay. It's okay to have an accent. And I always thought in back of my mind, people, they don't trust me just because I have an accent. Because just because I have an accent, that doesn't mean that I don't have the intelligence to deliver. That doesn't mean that I don't have the capability of, being a good agent and negotiate for you and to, sell your house or buy you a house or being your best ally. So we are trying to make that message more clear to everyone, especially with the surge of immigrants that are coming to this country. And we have to be more vigilant, and we need to make that message so clear that everyone gets involved, not just Gina and Sheila, but more, even American, we just don't want just foreigner American or second generation, first generation, second generation. We want everybody to get involved. We want to bring everybody together here, and we are hoping that with this podcast and symposium and all, like Gina said, bringing more live events together to create that feel of authenticity and friendliness for welcoming more people.
As I listened to the three of you talk, I wrote down 3 different words that I've heard enough of. The first one is safe. We need to create a safe space where we can have some discussions that are hard discussions to have. I also noted that trust was a big issue. We have to trust that we have good intentions, not bad intentions when we are doing this. And then I'm adding my last one in because I love your accents. I love all of the people. Like I said, they come in to my classes, they come into the office, they delight my ears. So I think we have to live in curiosity. That's the other thing that we need to do. If we're just curious instead of afraid, we be curious. I think you're on a good direction with this. I want to thank all 3 of you for spending the time with me today. I have enjoyed this very much. Thank you again for the work that you're doing with the committees at NSBAR. And I certainly wish you well, and I will help you in any way that I can. So know that, ladies. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.